Hi, I'm Lily Peterson.
And I'm Paul Wilson. Welcome to Beyond Benefits with Benefits Pro. For our first ever episode, we're talking with Chelsea Ryckis, founder and president of Ethos Benefits and the reigning Benefits Pro Advisor of the Year. But first, let's take a few minutes to introduce ourselves. Lily, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm the managing editor at Benefits Pro. I focus specifically on, how HR is involved in benefits and communication between advisors and all that jazz. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Awesome. What have been some of your favorite things about covering that beat so far? What is it about the HR world that you find most fascinating?
Well, I'll say first, it's nice to learn every day, learn something new and learn specifically how it can impact me, friends, family, and then just the broader public. I just think it's really interesting. I would say something I'm focusing on right now that I find really interesting is pay transparency.
Mm,
It's not a law that you have to disclose salary and stuff in every state. So it's just interesting to see where that is going to go and what companies are doing what and all that. Though it's just fun to see everything grow and move and change.
yeah, you're definitely in the right industry for that. I feel the same way every single day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what about you, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe people know who I am by now, but just in case, I'm Paul Wilson, editor in chief of Benefits Pro. I've been here for years and years covering this industry. And yeah, I have a background in English and journalism. And like many of the advisors and other folks in this industry, I kind of fell into the industry. But over the time that I've covered it, I've just learned to really love it. And it's such a fascinating place. To your point, Lily, it's always changing. And to me, one of the things I love the most about covering this industry is just the people, both the people that I deal with every day, but then just seeing the way that their work impacts all the employees out there. To me, that as a storyteller and somebody who loves reading and writing, I think that's what I love to watch is just the evolution of the way that this industry is impacting people in real ways. So yeah, it's so fun. And we're really looking forward to kicking off this podcast and doing exactly what we just talked about, just focusing on the people of this industry and shining a spotlight on all the people out there doing the great work.
I agree. I feel like honestly, when I read interviews that we do or go on LinkedIn and see what everyone's up to, my heart feels very warm. It's nice to see everyone so passionate about helping other people specifically. I
Yeah,
just think it's really nice to see that throughout the
absolutely.
world. It is funny when you ask people in the benefits industry how they got started because it's always kind of the same story of I wasn't supposed to and now I'm here fighting the good fight and have been for 30 years.
No, it is. And I know that even on, for those of us covering the industry on the editorial side, it's often the same thing. And I know that that was the case for you and for me too. Again, just coming into it as storytellers and people who, enjoy language and communication, but then to stumble into an industry that is so dynamic and interesting, I think is just, we're very lucky to be where we are.
I agree. Well, we should move on to the interview with our reigning advisor of the year, Chelsea Ryckis, who is the founder of Ethos Benefits, along with her husband, Donovan. In this episode, we'll talk about the state of employee benefits, how transparency is impacting advisors and employers, and much more. We'll have all of that coming up next.
Well, it's so great to have you on, Chelsea. We really appreciate you taking the time. I know how busy you are running a business and with your exciting life, but thanks so much for joining us on our first ever episode. And I feel like I see you and Donovan everywhere these days. You're all over LinkedIn and you're even on the latest cover of NABIT magazine. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been an exciting couple years for sure for the two of us for Ethos Benefits. And I have to tell you, I am so honored to be the very first guest of this podcast. I think that is so cool.
Well, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you're our reigning Benefits Pro Advisor of the Year and a longtime friend of the brand and of me, I would like to think. So no, we're so happy to have you on. Are you getting tired of signing autographs this year? How's the last year been for you?
I wish it was like that. No, it's funny. I think I've heard other advisor or broker of the year, I guess is what they were called in the past. But, they'd say things like, be prepared. You're going to get a lot of vendor inquiries. You're going to get a lot of, attention and things like that. That absolutely happened. But I do think that one of the less obvious benefits was just the credibility. And I mean, I know that sounds silly, like, duh, obviously this award gives you credibility, but it's like, it's something that like you don't have to tell people about. You can just put it into a presentation, you can put it into your email signature, you can have it on your LinkedIn, and like you don't necessarily talk about it, but it's there and it's such a recognizable brand and award. So no, I think it's contributed greatly to the growth of the company and even myself professionally. So again, I know I've said it a million times, but I am so grateful to you, to Benefits Pro, and everybody for the recognition. It's been such an honor.
I'm so glad to hear it. And obviously it's all about you. We're just happy to be able to provide a platform and kind of shine a spotlight on people like you who are doing such great things in the industry. So it's well earned and well deserved. I mean, we'll kick over into some other questions here in a minute, but just generally speaking, how are things going with you guys? How's Ethos doing? I know we were talking before we started recording a little bit, and you said you have some new hires, so you guys are growing and doing well.
Yeah, definitely growing. The really cool thing is the new hires that we're bringing in. So we had two start about 2 weeks ago, and one of them has a very specific set of skills, and it's like actuary, underwriting, very data analytics driven. It's been really fun. I think one of the things that I'm really proud of with Ethos Benefits is that we never followed a playbook. Right? Like Donovan and I, neither of us worked at a large agency. We had absolutely no idea what we were doing when we started, but we knew fundamentally, like we wanted to follow fiduciary principles. We wanted to do right by people. We wanted to be fee-based advisors. And we wanted to basically do the opposite from what we'd seen in the market traditionally. And I think it's really nice now, being 8 years removed from that first client, to look back and be like, okay, we did create our own playbook. We made our own rules and it's working. And it's such a testament to you can do well and do well for people and for your clients at the same time. So it's been a really, really exciting few months for us, for sure.
Great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I feel like this industry changes all the time, especially right now. But what are your views on where things stand right now? What are you keeping your eye on currently? Because I feel like it's just go, go, go all the time, always changing, always adapting.
Yeah, I feel like it could literally be, I should hire somebody just to like watch the news and keep up with the new legislation and warn me about what's going on, because it's like a full-time job. You're right. We're at a very pivotal moment though in this industry. Obviously, I'm sure everybody saw the JP Morgan lawsuit. So I'd like to say, and another one, here it goes, right? But that one's a little bit different. And I think it's interesting because, I mean, first off, this was true with Wells Fargo as well, but board of directors were named, not just CFO, HR. And then they also cited the fact that the decision makers had attended healthcare coalitions where they had learned about troublesome PBM practices and things like that. So what I'm seeing in the market is a new level of accountability. That's what we're seeing with this lawsuit, the most recent one at least. You're seeing PBM scrutiny, right? All throughout legislation. You're seeing transparent driven legislation in specific states like Tennessee, for example. They're working right now on passing some bills that would allow any out of pocket expenses. So even if you use a coupon code instead of your actual health plan, that would go towards your out of pocket and your deductibles and things like that, which is really neat. And then we saw the executive order from President Trump recently about the enforcement of the hospital price transparency. So, Lily, you're right. It is getting real out there. And it is such a cool time, I think, to be a part of this process and to be on this side of the movement specifically.
Yeah, I think that's what's fascinating is a lot of you have been doing these things and talking about these things for years now. And it does feel like the wave is starting to break. I'm sure it'll be a long process and there's still going to be plenty of ups and downs, but it is really exciting to see some of that really starting to take place in the headlines and across the nation. So you and Donovan, and we should probably back up. I mean, I think most people know by now who Donovan is, but I'm kind of assuming, so maybe we should just mention that Donovan and Chelsea are married and they are co-owners, co-CEOs.
He's CEO and founder. So I'll tell a story, a super quick story. His founding story is the entire premise of Ethos Benefits and everything we've done the last decade. So he was a fiduciary securities advisor. So he was working on the retirement side where all these lawsuits really originated, right? Was on the fraud, waste, and abuse happening in 401k plans. So he was on that side of the business. One of his clients, it was a small, I think maybe 60, 80 employee plumbing company, came to him with a renewal from their publicly traded broker that was 30 to 40%. It was a big increase. And their broker had said, there's nothing they can do. This is it. And they brought it to Donovan and they were like, hey, we have a hard time believing like there's nothing that can be done. Can you go to your markets and see? And Donovan was like, Sure. And then he tells this story. It's hilarious the way he says it. He goes, I need you to send me everything you have. He didn't ask for a census. He didn't know to ask for SBCs, plan docs, contracts. Like he didn't even know what to ask for, right? He just said, send me everything you have. So the guy luckily knew what he was doing, sent him everything he had. And all Donovan did was apply the same fiduciary principles. He stripped out commission. He didn't need bonuses. He was like, why are we using this vendor when they're misaligned? Like if the employer pays more, that vendor makes more money. That doesn't make sense. So not even knowing what he was doing, he designed his first self-funded health plan. And he brought in a 12% decrease under current. And that was his kind of light bulb moment where he was like, something's really wrong here. If I, as an outsider, could come in and figure this out, he says it himself. He's not a genius. I think he's very intelligent, but I would agree he's not a genius. So it's like, what's really going on in this industry, right? So that's the founding story of Ethos Benefits. And that's when he first made his transition into the group health market, because he said, I joined the business a few months later after that first case. And I remember him telling me, we need to basically put all of our eggs in this fiduciary basket. And our website at the time in 2017 was like fiduciary advisors. Nobody knew what it meant. Everybody thought we were retirement. And we were like kind of ahead of our time, if you will. Now, well, I'm sure we'll talk about it today. It's quite the buzzword and it's quite a thing, but that's the entire founding story of Ethos Benefits is actually Donovan's story. So I get to ride his coattails on that for sure.
Wow. You guys are great partners, and I think you both have lots of superpowers, which is one of the reasons that you've been so successful. And I was going to talk about that. I mean, you have been on the cutting edge of the industry for years now, both of you, working with employers on all these strategies and ideas that are super innovative and also very much outside of what a lot of people are used to. So
Yes.
I'd just be curious to hear how conversations have shifted over the years around that. Like, are you getting more buy-in from people? Are they starting to be more familiar or at least more receptive to these ideas? Like, what are you hearing and seeing right now?
Yeah, I would say in the last probably 8 to 10 months, I've noticed a little bit of a shift in the prospects that I speak with. So some of them are coming to us, which is rare, right? Usually it's me reaching out to them in some way, or they see us speak and then they're intrigued. But a lot of them are actually seeing the documentary, which is pretty cool. So we produced a healthcare documentary. We did it with alongside a bunch of other advisors across the country, some really key pivotal people in our industry and thought leaders. But essentially, we send this documentary out, and then what ends up happening is they come to us and they already have that baseline understanding that like something's wrong, and oh, maybe there is something I can do about it, which allows that education process to like be cut in half. So I'd say the documentary has helped tremendously in employers really kind of bridging the gap in that education and understanding like, okay, I actually can control this problem. But I will tell you full transparency, because that's how I roll. I had this situation happen twice in the last month. There are still companies out there, despite showing them breaches in fiduciary duty, insane broker compensation. I'm talking over $100 per employee per month fees. Benchmark that, and that's way more than 50% over what somebody should be paying a broker for a fully insured, really basic plan. All sorts of issues, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings just by doing the right thing. And some leaders are still protecting incumbent relationships because it's their so and so's friend, or it's somebody that's been there for 12 years and they just don't have the heart to like break that relationship. So I think while we are in this time of transparency and employers are starting to really be like, okay, I have to listen and I have to understand this stuff, I also think that there's still a lot of old school mentality out there that's like, nah, I'm good. I'm not big enough to get sued. So we've still got some work to do, but it's getting better. I will give you that.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it can very easily, what we say in this industry, it's male, pale, and stale.
Girl,
And
you said it,
so,
I didn't.
yeah.
But I was literally thinking that because and you know what's really interesting, Lily? It's been CFOs. I've noticed the HRs, and a lot of them are female. They are super open to making things better, and then you have like the CFOs that are very fixated on, let's say, fixed costs, where if you understand the healthcare problem, you'll know that the real opportunity is in variable cost. But yes, to your point, it's a lot of protecting old stale relationships. The message is simple. That's not going to work for too much longer. Like it's just not. And unfortunately, I think people are going to have to keep seeing these lawsuits and learn it the hard way.
Yeah. Well, kind of getting a little more specific, how would you say these ideas are being received by the providers and health systems, either generally or specifically in your area? Is it still a constant battle?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, the same way that this movement is sort of divided in the broker world, right? Like you have your more innovative, maybe data driven, transparent brokers that are kind of leading this charge that we're talking about right now. And then you have the brokers, I'd still call them like the present day, maybe more status quo traditional brokers that are very involved with traditional business. Nothing wrong with that. There's a place in the market for it, and a lot of clients need that business. The same way that those two sort of pillars exist, it's the exact same on the provider and the hospital carrier system side. What we're noticing is that it's very region dependent. So we do have clients nationwide, mid and large market employers, pretty much all over the country, almost every state. So I feel like we've got a relatively expansive view of the issue. There are certain regions in this country where the hospital systems are not going to play ball with something like a network replacement or direct contracting. They just won't. And then you end up in a situation where there's one hospital system in this rural area and they won't play ball, right? So you're pretty limited on what you can do in that scenario. But I will tell you, and this is kind of a little secret, don't believe everything you hear. So there's a lot of health systems out there. I will not say names, but they will publicly say they reject any type of innovative Medicare based pricing models. They won't do direct contracts. They won't do single case agreements. Give me the PPO or give me nothing at all. That is not true. And our health plans pay these hospital systems every single day. So I would caution people of believing everything that you hear. I've been told in this state, absolutely, you cannot do reference based pricing. And then I go there and I do my own analysis and I'm like, actually, we can. And we have multiple groups there that are now doing it successfully. So don't believe everything you hear is number one. Number two, yes, there's definitely a divide, but if you're working with the right vendors, yeah, it's not as bad as everybody thinks it is in a lot of these regions.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you think that the reason some of them are saying one thing and doing another is pressure from their peers, from other providers? They don't want to come out publicly and admit that they're doing that, or is there something else going on there?
I think you're absolutely right, Paul, that it's going to be protection of the incumbent contracts and
Yeah.
those PPO contracts and arrangements. But I also think that it's like in an effort to sort of save face. I'm always concerned when somebody's job title is like chief revenue generator, like
Right.
something like that, right? And like those are the people that are saying, oh, yeah, we commercial plans have to cover the cost of everything because we make nothing on Medicare. And then you look at the data and you're like, actually, you do make money on Medicare. Yeah, I always get a little weary of that. So again, there's so much politics and a lot of consolidation, vertical integration happening behind the scenes that it's really hard to just trust what you read when it comes to who's playing ball and who's not. It's much better to go to vendors and ask them for analysis from their book of business. Hey, in this region, how many times have you paid this hospital system? Of, how many of your claims have been denied from this hospital system? That's a more effective way than so and so says Texas doesn't like RBP, which isn't true. Texas is fine, by the way. But that's what I would kind of say on that.
No, that's great. So this is kind of like a grassroots movement, I feel like, in a lot of ways, just hearing about all these advisors and others who are changing this industry. And there's so much energy and so much optimism. But it's also been going on a long time. And I know that it can wear people down and it's tiring to be at the forefront of all this all the time. So how do you kind of stay motivated and not get discouraged? Or when you do get discouraged, how do you kind of come back from that as a leader?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I think fundamentally, I just know deep down that I'm on the right side of history with this. And I come back to that often, even with the recent examples that I shared of not being able to educate a CFO enough, or not being able to overcome an incumbent relationship or something like that. That's okay because honestly, this work kicks our ass on a daily basis. I'm not going to lie. But if you are values driven and you're aligned with the mission, and every single person you hire is values driven and aligned with the mission, you kind of just come back to one of the mantras we have in our business is one employer at a time. That's how change happens, right? It's really intimidating to think, can I get this hospital system to accept my innovative plans? How many direct contracts can I put together? Can I get this drug from Canada? How do I fix this system? That is super overwhelming. What's not overwhelming is how can I educate one employer at a time how to do better for their employees? So we come back to that saying constantly. And then I think I'm kind of sick in a way. Like, I love the pressure. I love the high stakes. I don't think that there's anything more important than accessing quality healthcare at an affordable price. As a Canadian who had access to healthcare, whether it was quality or not, other story, but full-time access, didn't pay a dime, taxes, yes. Fundamentally values based, that access is so important to me. So I think it's a couple things.
Now that makes sense. And you mentioned, talking to vendors and other partners. I'm sure that helps a lot. And then one thing that I've been really fascinated by is just the relationships of the various advisors across the industry. And I mean, there's egos, of course, but I just mean the willingness of people to collaborate and share secrets. And I'm sure that that has been key in all this too.
That's such a good point. The camaraderie, absolutely, that you get from attending a Benefits Pro Expo or any of the conferences that go on in the industry. You're absolutely right. Like, the reminder that you're not alone. I'm a part of a par group with Q4I, Wendy and Kevin. And, I found myself yesterday texting one of the ladies in my par group, telling her about a situation that I have going on with a prospect and something I wanted to do with a contract, and just going back and forth with her on it. And I'm like, God, this is so nice, and she's my competition. She is literally in my market. She only works mid and large market employers, and this group is in her state, and she was still willing to give me advice based on her state. So yeah, it's a very special group of people that are doing this. And I really think too, it's a very special group of employers that are open-minded enough to start looking at these solutions and trusting people like us.
For sure. I also think, kind of like you said earlier, that change is scary. And I liked your approach of, just one thing at a time, basically. Let's start small. How else would you say you meet employers, employees, providers where they are while also trying to help them move forward?
Yeah, it's another great question. You guys are great today with all of these questions. So I think the most fundamental piece of advice that I could give when it comes to meeting people where they're at is what we've kind of already talked about, which is taking a graded approach. I feel like that's a pretty obvious way, right? Don't go network replacement first year. Like, lean into it. Maybe do some pharmacy fixes the first year, get a few $100,000 in savings, depending on the size of the group, obviously. Give employees things for free, get them engaged, really work on your communication strategy and the overall messaging of there's a problem in healthcare. Guess what? We can fix it. We're going on this multi-year journey together. This is what it's going to look like. And then when you win, you give employees more, whether that's more contributions, more programs, less out of pocket. So I think very fundamentally, it's a structured process, right? It's a graded approach. It's a multi-year strategy. You're not throwing in all the innovative, creative solutions in year one. That will be a disaster. I think even more than that, it's this mentality that you can train them. We will only ever do something if it's a win-win. We will never do something if it's a win financially for the employer, but it's not a win for the employees, whatever that looks like. So if you can kind of, when you're educating employers, train them that all of this is about a win for you and a win for your employees, because guess what? Cost and quality are not directly correlated in this world. You don't pay more and get a better experience. You don't go to a bigger hospital and get a better surgery. You don't work with a bigger broker and get better solutions. That's not how healthcare works. In fact, it's often the opposite. Usually bigger means more misaligned incentives, more vertical integration, more things that you don't know about happening behind your back on your dime. So win-wins, number one, and then number two, take it slow. Ease into it.
I love that. It's kind of that whole skin in the game was a term that was used a lot when consumer-driven healthcare was being pitched, but it was kind of disingenuous and
Yeah.
ended up causing a lot more problems. This is kind of the real skin in the game where you can show employees, if you do these things, that there really is some benefits to you, it seems like.
Yeah, there's so many examples, Paul, of win-wins. I mean, we've got direct contracts with cancer facilities. So unfortunately, if an employee comes down with cancer, they get their treatment for free because of these direct contracts. Like, the employer will foot the bill of the entire treatment because it's so much cheaper than if they were going to their hospital. They can do that, right? Imaging. If you engage with our imaging service, you are getting your imaging for free. Outpatient surgeries, same thing. Specialty drugs, they're getting shipped from Canada, the UK, New Zealand, no cost to the employees. So there's all these. Direct primary care is another one. Just win-wins where it's going to be a win financially for the employer so they can sustain the program and continue to reinvest. But the employees, that's really the only thing that matters, right? Because if they don't like it, why are we doing it? So win-wins all the way around. And then, sometimes I'll even talk about the third win, which is us. We should only be winning if everybody else is winning. So we're never going to ask for a raise, right? We're never going to increase our fees. We're never going to take compensation where we shouldn't, because at the end of the day, the best designed programs, every single vendor in the program has skin in the game, to use your words, Paul, that there is some type of performance-based component driving the impact.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You talked a little bit about fiduciary earlier and how it's a bit of a buzzword, but another one that you hear about all the time, and you even mentioned it a little bit with hospitals, is the idea of transparency.
Yeah.
So how is that changing the industry? Like, I know that the word is used and sometimes it's used incorrectly, and I know that that's created some noise for people who are truly doing the right thing. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, but also just where do you think we are and where do you think it's kind of headed next with the whole idea of transparency in the industry?
Such a good question. So I hate to say I'm over something because that sounds really dramatic and childish, but I'm really over transparency
Yeah.
because it's like we've literally been transparent now almost a decade and like walking the walk, not talking the talk, like walking it, which is a lot harder than talking about it, I'll add, especially from a business operations and creating scalable teams and training and all that side. But nonetheless, it has become a buzzword, transparency. Everybody's using it. And unfortunately, what happens when something becomes a buzzword is the true definition, the true meaning gets watered down. So now you have transparent PBMs, but then you read their contracts and they're not what I would think is transparent. So there's no legal definition of transparent. There is a legal definition of fiduciary, which is why I much prefer that word. However, I think it is important that employers understand I should want to work with somebody who's transparent. The fact that I've been working with people who may not be transparent and didn't even know it, like that's a problem, right? The best things I think to come out of the transparency movement, other than the hospital pricing, is compensation disclosures, conflict of interest disclosures, and the Consolidated Appropriations Act was really driven a lot with the transparency in mind of 2021. And that has RxDC reporting in it, mental health parity. Everything within the CAA is designed to give employers more power. And I think this is like one of the secrets that people don't really realize how much the CAA of 2021 is rooted in transparency principles and empowers employers and us brokers to get access to their data. And it can be used really, really, really effectively. So the industry is changing. Whether it's a buzzword, whether I like it or not, it doesn't matter. We are moving in that direction. And I think the ERISA lawsuits, the breaches of fiduciary duty, are speeding this process up. I, for one, am here for it.
Yeah. When your name is mentioned, it tends to get your attention, I think. So,
Yeah.
For sure. And I feel like it's a new buzzword. The industry's always changing. I feel like there's never a spot in the industry where we're sitting there and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
So, what are the other big challenges that you're facing with the industry right now? And how are you dealing with all that, especially with all the change coming out of Washington?
So one thing I think would be great advice, and somebody gave this to me a few years ago, is it's like stay informed, but don't act on absolutely everything you hear until it's actually a thing, like until it's passed, until it's gone through its due diligence process. I used to get really worked up about all the legislation and the things happening in Washington, and I would obsess over it and read about it. And then I noticed I started to get stressed out. And then some of it never came to fruition, and it was just a complete waste of time. So what I've done in the past couple years is I stay informed, and I do that by finding my trusted resources. So whether that's an ERISA attorney that I have on retainer, different HR systems that send me alerts, doing my own reading. There's certain people on LinkedIn that I think are incredible, and I look to see what they're posting about every single week. Like it's literally something I look for. Podcasts. One really, really good one out there, other than this one and ours, The Business of Benefits, is Relentless Health Value with Chelsea Ryckis. That is a masterclass every single time you listen to it. So find your trusted sources and listen to them. And then look at the timeline. Is this something that's going to impact my clients and my business this year, right now, next month, 10 years from now? And then give it the weight it deserves, right? Which it takes some discernment, but yeah, don't act on things until they're a thing, right? And at which point have the channels to be able to communicate it effectively to your team, to your clients. Stay informed and find your trusted resources. Don't get overwhelmed.
That sounds like great advice for just life in general. Obviously, professionally dealing with all the noise, but I feel like more and more just being a human in this world, that's probably a good way to approach things too.
I like that.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot to you, and you've been in the magazine and on the website. Your personal challenges have been well documented with the softball injury and various things that you've gone through. I would just love to hear kind of how some of those challenges, along with just your overall career path so far, has kind of shaped who you are and your current mindset, the way that you approach employees and employers.
Yeah, I think that a lot of those early struggles, the brain injury, and I don't know if I had shared, but I had a divorce very young. I got married very young, married my college sweetheart, went through a divorce. There's been things like that I was going through in my early 20s that most people haven't had to deal with, like that level of trauma, probably, especially with the brain injury. I think what it did was it gave me what I refer to internally. I don't usually say this out loud, but like an unshakable confidence, in the sense that some crazy legislation comes out of Washington, to Lily's point, and our entire business model has to change next month. We lose every single client tomorrow. My staff turns over. It's going to be okay. Or on the flip side of that, we scale super quickly and we close a bunch of new business, and now I have to hire 10 new people. And whether it's good, it's bad, everything is just an ebb and flow, is what I've learned from these kind of horrific experiences and overcoming them. And what matters is that I can get through it. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Everything is just happening around us. And I truly believe it's happening for us, which I think is another piece of that mentality, that everything that's happening is happening for me. So if I don't win a client, if I make an offer to somebody and they don't come on board, whatever the situation is, I truly believe that that's in my best interest, as long as everything I'm doing is values aligned and mission driven.
That's a great answer. I love that. Just that perspective and the fact that you know that you can get through hard things personally and as a business. That's so empowering. And it's something I think that only comes with life experience. I mean, maybe there are people that are born with that, but I've not met them.
I think if you're born with that, it's more like ego.
That's true. Yeah, maybe I've met them and quickly went the other way.
Yeah, probably. But.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer.
And I feel like we've talked about change a lot today, and you faced a lot of adversity, not only in your personal life, but I feel like just business-wise as well. This industry has been seen as stodgy and reluctant to change. Do you see that shifting at all? Is the momentum going a certain way? Do you see the industry continue to improve? What are your thoughts on all of that?
It's like, what day do you ask me is like the answer you're going to get sometimes, I feel like, with that question. Because there's days where, you're talking to employers and they're just getting it and like things are jiving, right? And then there's days where it's like somebody's telling you how great their PPO discount is and their broker is obsessed with their best PPO discount and they're protecting a 30-year relationship. So I feel like we are, as a whole, collectively, very much moving forward. The momentum is there. The change is coming. Abso-freaking-lutely. But I will say, I think while we're like on this wave of transparency and this wave of change, there's still people who are reluctant to change. It happens in your personal life. It happens in your professional life. The key is, how do you surround yourself with the people that embrace change? They're ready to adapt. They're willing. They're resilient. So you go out and you find people like you. You find companies with that same values and that same mindset. When it comes to the industry improving and bringing in like younger, more maybe diverse people into our industry, because I know that's something that we talk about a lot, is like old male pale stale, Lily, right? Like little stagnant. How are we going to bring the youth? And I think that's actually one of the reasons Ethos Benefits has been so successful, is because we have that sort of like youthful, bold, we're not scared, we're going to, we're here for the long haul kind of mentality. How do we get more people like that? And I think it's telling stories about the values, the mission, the people that you're impacting. So one of my goals this year is to create some super impactful case studies, because every single day I mean, literally every day, somebody on our plans is getting a free surgery, or they're getting their cancer treatment for free, or they're getting a free drug that before they had to choose between groceries and now they get a drug and they get their groceries, right? Getting those real life employee impact stories out into the world so that these younger people can see, like, oh, wow, that is important work. It's not just insurance and numbers and commissions and bonuses and icky. Like, that's real work. Like, what's more important than that? That's my plan on getting those
Yeah.
people into my world.
I love that. I think that's a really important point because, like you said, insurance is not sexy. It never will be sexy on the surface. But if you can start explaining what you actually do and the difference it makes, that is going to be so appealing to a younger generation. And I don't know about you, Chelsea, but I feel like, it's anecdotal, but I feel like just attending conferences around the industry, you can notice it. Things are changing. There's more diverse people in the industry in a number of ways. There's younger people in the industry. Even when I started,
Have you seen how
yeah,
many more females are doing this work?
yes, I have. It's exciting. I like it because even the time that I've been covering it, I've noticed a huge difference. So I'm glad to see that you are seeing that too. I agree.
Well, and Paul, I think a lot of that too comes down to publications like Benefits Pro being willing to showcase and feature diverse populations. I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. If Broker of the Year was an old pale male stale every single year, it's probably less attractive for certain people. So I think it's amazing that you guys are like actively seeking out younger talent and diverse talent, and you do, even in your normal publications, not even the big award or the conference, but the speakers that you have. It's really important that the thought leaders in our industries, especially on the publication and editorial side, realize the impact that they have. I think that's often overlooked.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been something that has been a privilege to be able to do because I feel like just being on the ground and meeting so many amazing women and various people around this industry, you can kind of see what a shame it is that they aren't given the platform they deserve. And so to me, it's a no brainer. And it's been, like I said, a privilege, if anything, to be able to do it. But yeah, thank you. So speaking of conferences, before we move on, do you want to just give us a really quick overview of a couple of things you're going to be doing at the Benefits Pro Broker Expo in Boston? We're going to have you on stage. I can never get you on stage enough, Chelsea.
I was going to say, you can't get me off stage is more of your problem. Yeah, I'm so excited for this year's conference. It's always one of my favorites. So one of the things that we're doing the first day, Donovan and I will be doing this session together, actually. Advisors, then, now, and next. And it's basically going through the evolution of the advisor. And so I've interviewed advisors who've had their practices 30 plus years and have little tidbits of information like what legislation shaped their business back in the day. What was the most important part about building client relationships? How does the compensation model today differ from then? So we're going to look at where the business was and where we are and where it's going. And the hope is that we don't make the same mistakes of the past as we move forward. And my real goal with this session is to end on a super high note of how can we future-proof our agencies? Right? We have AI coming. I mean, AI is here, by the way. We're literally working on a service chatbot right now for all of our clients, like a custom AI. It's here, even in the agencies. Like, it's been in healthcare for a long time, but agency level, it's very much a thing. So how do we help everybody future proof and really understand how this role has evolved and changed and where it's going? So that'll be on Monday. And then the next day, I'll be on stage with Paul, Lester Morales, Deb Alt, and Bart Camarada talking about the documentary. It's not personal, it's just healthcare. So that's what I'm doing in Boston.
I'm so excited for that. I'm both of them. Anybody who has ever seen Chelsea and Donovan speak, either separately or together, knows how good they are. And you mentioned it earlier, but one of my favorite things about you guys is just your willingness and ability to talk about everything, warts and all, the struggles you've had, the successes you've had. And so I think that's one of the things that makes you guys, speaking of transparency, so powerful. So I'm sure that'll be standing room only.
The failures, we always share our failures. I'll give you that, Paul. Like, I think that's actually how the very first session we ever did with Benefits Pro was, like, everything we screwed up in self-funding. It was like
Yeah.
7 years ago. So yeah, if you come to any of our sessions, you will definitely hear about the losses before you'll hear about the wins, because this is one of the things I also love about Benefits Pro. And then I promise I'll stop talking so you can sign us off of here. But it's not one of the conferences that you go to and sometimes you go to the sales conferences or certain places and everybody's like beating on their chest, like, oh, I saved an employer $1 million. And it's like,
Mhm.
awesome, dude. It's really collaboration. It's really solving the problem. Like it's bigger than finances. It's very, very special. So anybody listening that hasn't been, don't think twice. Hit me up. I may or may not have a couple of my board discount passes left, but don't miss out on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And we're not going to let you off that easy because we have a couple more questions for
Oh,
you if
do
you
we?
have time.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that. And then, like you said, our keynote, the afternoon of day 2, is going to be focused on that amazing documentary that you put out. And I'll just give a little teaser to say that I'm working with Bart, who's the producer, and we're going to find some kind of found footage and some things. So even if you've seen it before and might think you know it all, I would encourage people to attend anyways, because we're going to try to make it worthwhile for everyone. So it should be a lot of fun. Lily, you have one more question, and then we're going to do a couple of fun ones for you, Chelsea.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we'll get to the fun stuff so soon, but we just wanted to ask this last question. So finish this sentence. The thing that makes me most excited about the future of our industry is.
The fact that everyone will need to become a communication expert. So I'll give some context to that. I've been saying the same thing for like 8 years. Maybe it'll become real life, but it's not good enough to just be a finance person and be able to manipulate numbers and be successful in this business. That is, I'll be transparent, that is Donovan's strength in our business. He is the financial guru. The secret sauce, though, is how do you communicate that in a story to employers, to their employees, to their families, to their dependents, to the providers, to the hospital systems. What we're doing, yes, it's financially driven and motivated for change and for the better. But in order for it to work, everybody in the supply chain has to become a communication expert, or there's too many breakdowns. And that's where the friction happens. That's my point of view.
I'll give you a softball reference. You knocked it out of the park.
Ooh.
You're talking to two journalism English
Yeah.
majors, so we love that. I mean, I do agree with you completely. The communication skills are so often underlooked, or they're considered kind of a soft skill that's on the side. But I agree with you. I mean, not just in our industry, but especially here, there's maybe nothing as important as that. So
I couldn't agree more. And even in terms of, if we wanted to get super granular and less 360-degree view, like employee communications, right? It's not enough to just, everybody says this, oh, you can't just communicate with employees at open enrollment. No, you can't. You need to be engaging them multiple times a month, year round, custom experiences via text message, let them text back. There's a modern employee engagement experience that's happening under the communications realm, or should be happening under like a communications department. And I feel like that's a huge area of opportunity. And we'll talk a lot about that actually in our session.
nice. Okay. Well, you passed this section. All the dry industry stuff is over. Now it's time. It's all about you and Donovan, if you want to include him. He's not around to say anything, so whatever you say is the truth here. So now we talked about this. The industry can be rough on people. It's a grind. You guys work hard. I know, especially during Q4, but all year round when you're trying to create change, it can be tough. So how do you and Donovan relax and refresh? What are things you do for fun? What are hobbies, if you have such a thing?
Yeah, right. Like if you do anything other than work.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. So I've got a service dog named Copious. So we take him on walks to the beach, take him swimming. He loves the pool. He loves the ocean. He comes paddleboarding with me in the mornings. So I like to go paddleboarding as often as I can. Donovan has recently gotten into fishing, which is pretty cool. Never really saw him as a fisherman. He also mountain bikes. He's a big weightlifter. I've just got into Pilates in the last like 4 or 5 months, and that's pretty cool. So I feel like when we're not working, we're trying to work on our health, and whether that's mental health or physical health. And then we definitely have succumbed to the whole like Netflix at night thing the last couple months, because it's just been a little bit more chaotic. And when you just need to like let your brain not think about anything. So we'll do a lot of our like health fitness stuff in the mornings, full day of work, and then maybe try to watch a movie sometimes in the night.
I love that. In Donovan's defense about being a fisherman, I think when men reach a certain age, it just kind of happens. I don't know how or why, but I think it's inevitable. So I get it.
Funny to me. I'm like, you never cared about this at all. And then now it's like Sunday, he's gone the entire day fishing. I'm like, okay.
I feel like it's that or golf.
Oh,
Like that's what people pick up.
That's what Chelsea is doing.
Yeah, I actually was like, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, we will golf as well. I feel like we've really not golfed as much as we should be. You know those things? I know everybody's got them, but you're like, I'm paying for this membership. Like, I
Mm.
need to go and use it. That's golf for us right now. We're like, we got to get our butts out there.
I get it. I'm with you on the Pilates thing, though. Doing it in the morning really sets the day up for success.
Love that for you. That's good.
Okay, so another fun question, a little fun. I'm an English major, Paul's journalism. We're big readers. Is there a book you're currently reading, whether that's industry or business or maybe just a fun book?
Oh man. So I was reading The Great American Drug Deal and it's pretty dense. So I'm not necessarily recommending it. It's just one that I was literally just working on. Catastrophic Care is on my list right now. I'm like halfway through. And then, okay. Well, for anybody that makes it through the entire episode, I'm also reading What to Expect When You're Expecting.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun. Announcement coming soon.
Love it. Love it. We will leave it there for now, but just know that I'm beaming. Nobody can see me, but I'm beaming. Awesome. So let's see. You mentioned earlier a couple of favorite industry podcasts, including yours, which I would highly recommend to anybody out there. And I would like to think eventually we'll make it onto the list, but I don't want to be presumptuous yet since we're just starting. But do you have any other favorite industry podcasts? And then if there's anything that you listen to that's maybe a non-industry.
Yeah. Relentless Health Value, Stacey Richter is one of my favorites. That one, again, it's a masterclass. Like you're going to want to have your notepad out. Anything self-funded with Spencer. Spencer's amazing. He's out of a captive Pareto Health and he does more master lessons really on stop loss. He also interviews a ton of different brokers around the country and it's really interesting to hear how people are doing business in different parts of the country. Oh, so Emma and David have one called Healthcare Hangover. That's also very good. So ours is called the Business of Benefits, and we changed it to that. So from Ethos Effect, because I think people like HRs and employers, when they're searching, they're probably going to be searching benefits, not the name of my
Right.
company, right? And then non-related, I've kind of jumped on the Mel Robbins train. I can't decide if I'm actually a fan of her or not, but I've been listening to like the Let Them theory and a lot of just like letting go of your expectations and your outcomes around certain situations, right? Which I think is really important if you're involved in this movement. Like you can only do so much. You know, even at the top of your game, you're still going to have losses. You're still going to be exhausted. You know, how are you taking care of yourself? So those are a lot of the things that I'm focusing on when I'm not focusing on healthcare.
Love it.
I agree. I just wrote all of those podcasts down. So I'm excited to start listening. Speaking of listening, I'm a big music gal. Paul always says that he hired me because I know who Kurt Cobain is.
It's not the only reason.
For one reason.
And I'm hilarious. So, but
Yes.
what album or song do you have on repeat these days?
Oh my gosh. This is so bad that I like don't even know. You guys, I literally work all the time. It's so bad. Honestly, if I'm taking any takeaways for myself from this podcast, it's like, hey, go get a life. No, I love country music. So anything country. I know Paul is like, Paul, why don't you tell us your favorite music? And
Oh, see, I like how you just turned that around on me. My main problem right now is just finding new music. I am like probably again a typical old guy who just goes back to all the speaking of Kurt Cobain, but I am a big fan of Phoebe Bridgers and I love Boy Genius. Those are like two that I listen to. They're not new, but they're newer. So I'll count that as a win for myself that I'm not at least. I got out of the 90s. That's got to count for something.
that definitely counts for something.
Yeah.
I just pulled up my most played playlist and it's a playlist I made called Oldies and it's got like Fortunate Son, Fleetwood Mac, Dancing in the Moonlight. So I guess
Nice.
that's more what I'm into. I like the older music.
Solid.
I always get
You passed.
embarrassed when people ask me about music because I'm like, I just don't know.
We told you this would be the fun part of the podcast, and I feel like this is the part that you're just hating.
Yeah, I am.
Well,
Let's
we
talk
will. We'll let you off the hook. One last question, and then we'll let
Okay.
you go. But I know you and Donovan like to travel a lot. So, what's the best trip that you've ever taken, and do you have any fun travel on the horizon?
Wow. Okay. So this is a personal answer because Donovan was sick this entire trip. So it would be really messed up if I'm like, my favorite trip was the one he barely came on. But we went to Hawaii and that was pretty amazing. That was for a conference. Unfortunately, it was only like a 3-day conference and he was literally sick in the bathroom the whole time. Like it was terrible. Poor guy. So that is what it is. We did our honeymoon in Puerto Rico, and we were on the western side of Puerto Rico in a town called Rincon, and that was super special. But honestly, we love all of our trips. Like anytime we go to a conference, I think this is one of the ways we stay sane is we keep a day on the front or a day on the end, and we try not to work. We like our team knows like, hey, we're going to need at least half a day to ourselves. We find the nicest restaurants we can find or cocktail lounges, whatever it is we're in the mood for. And we just go and experience different cities. And I think that's really fun. And then we take a trip to Canada to see my family every year. So I think that's another one of my top favorites. You need to go to Banff. That's BANFF, Banff, Alberta, Canada. If you haven't been, the Rocky Mountains are unbelievable. You can go glamping, luxury camping in this gorgeous tent in a place called Sundance Lodge. Oh my goodness. I want to go back like tomorrow. So those are probably my favorite trips. And then in terms of what's coming up, my twin brother is having a baby in June. So we're going to go up and be a part of that experience, work remote from there. And then Donovan's 40th is coming up this year. And I'm planning a surprise trip to an island in the Caribbean for him and a couple of friends.
Nice. If it's a surprise, does that mean we should cut that part out?
No, he will not make it this far listening to me talk. It's fine. I can guarantee you.
Well, Chelsea, that was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We are so honored that you were our first guest, and
Yay.
any chance to talk to you, we'll take it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
For all of our listeners, please subscribe to Beyond Benefits with Benefits Pro anywhere you get your podcasts. And if you want to rate us, we'd love your feedback. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me over at pwilson@benefitspro.com, or you can email Lily at lpeterson@alm.com.
And thank you to our producer, Zach. Join us again next time for a new episode of Beyond Benefits with Benefits Pro. Until then, thanks for listening.